Good morning, everybody. We will call the Wright County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for December 21st. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody, online and here in person. The minutes from last week. Does anybody have anything they need to change?
Which ones?
Just a reminder, we do have the two sets, both the first being for the evening meeting.
We got the ones for 6 o'clock listed first, I guess.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the minutes from the December 6th meeting.
Second.
December 6th.
Wait, isn't it?
Right.
Pardon?
Mine showed the 9th.
Wait, maybe I'm wrong.
It was the 9th because
The 9th at 6
Oh.
o'clock.
6 p.m.
Yep, sorry about that. Little dyslexic thing I had, I guess.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Mary had
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry. Motion by Commissioner Hewson, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Board minutes from December 14th.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a correction at the, pretty much towards the end, under North Crow River. The extension is the one that's hiring the Hort person, and that's the correction there, and I'm on the committee to select that person. That's all I have. Otherwise, unless there's any other corrections, I'll move that the county board minutes of 12/14 be approved as written, including that correction.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Wetter, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Review and approval of the agenda. Is there anything we want added to the agenda?
I have nothing to add.
All right. With that, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Batch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like to remove for further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wetter.
I'd like to pull A1.
Commissioner Ketchmark?
Yes, B2, under finance, request the position replacement, and then under E is in Edward, 1 and 2, authorization to fill the 2 spots in planning and zoning. And with that, I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda with those 3 items pulled.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Wetter.
Yeah, under A1, authorize signatures on the 2022 Minnesota City Participation Program, the MCPP agreement. Okay, I understand those were loans since 2008, and I guess without any history, are there any changes that have occurred from last year in the?
Commissioner Wetter, I can speak to that a little bit.
Okay.
As mentioned, we have done this for a number of years. It is not a cost to the county. The housing partnership issues these bonds, and then they have money in a fund. They distribute that then to participating entities for eligibility. So if first-time home buyers are looking for a little better rates through this program, they can contact one of the qualified lenders. within the county and get a little bit better rate. So we just have to authorize that they are able to participate within Wright County. So it's not funds that we handle. We just have to allow it to operate within the county, and it's
So you haven't heard any problems with it or anything?
we have not. Typically, the funds have been used up, more demand than there's funds available for Wright County, so.
Okay, thank you. That's all I question.
And make a motion to approve the item?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve that item then.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Wetter, second by Commissioner Vetch, to approve A1 under administration. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So under B, Administration and Finance, number 2, it states request position replacement for Office Tech 2. So I had a question for Finance. I see Lindsay's online. Could you tell us where this is in the process for replacement now?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ketchmark, the position has been posted for replacement. It is not closed yet.
Okay. So, back to the agenda here, what it states is request position replacement for Office Tech 2. To me, that means it's on the consent agenda for the board to approve that replacement. And if the position's already posted, somebody's already approved replacing. It's well on its way with a closing date coming up and then interviews to follow. I guess if the intent is for the board to approve the replacement, then I think it should come before us before the process ever starts. Otherwise, it's less than a formality here that you kind of wonder, why are we here? Why is this on the agenda?
Go ahead.
Chair. Well, these positions are key positions, and so it used to, way back when someone left the position, that it would come to the Personnel Committee. It's like, there's no reason for this to come to the Personnel Committee. It just involved a lot of extra expense for the county, really, to pay per diems for the commissioners and bring key staff in. And a position, is vacated. Positions aren't created for people. The position is created for need, and then people need to fill those positions. So I don't know why we have to, bring this before the board unless there's a reason. And in that case, then the department heads usually would come and say, hey, this position is open, but I looked at some restructuring things and we don't necessarily need this position anymore. So that's kind of a little history on that. And, the need is there, the position is open, so.
Commissioner Ketchmark. One of the things that I think we have done, back to Commissioner Hewson's, on what used to be done, is that it gets posted as soon as possible, and it still gets put on the consent agenda for us to look at. So we can still stop it. I mean, they can still apply for it, but because they haven't done interviews, we can put it on hold after the fact. So it's because it takes so long.
My name is, I'm the Wright County attorney.
It takes so long to get somebody hired. We're just trying to move things along a little faster.
And thanks for the explanation. I can see if we were a part-time board per se and we don't meet every week, but it seems like the frequency of our meetings, after someone gives notice within a matter of a few days, we can have it on the agenda and look at it. We can look at an organizational chart. We can have time to, hey, this has drawn our attention. What do you think? Is there room for some other movement? So I guess if it's on there, I'd like it to really carry the weight that it really should if it's on there, and we're at the final stage of approval. So that's what kind of jumps out at me.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Vetch.
So Commissioner Ketchmark, I was on the same notion you were on for quite a while, and And I probably would still be on that same notion of getting the approval before posting it, but today's labor market, we have to adapt. Recruitment and retention is really key on this, because from a retention standpoint, every day that you're operating short staff is you're making that work environment less attractive, putting you in the position where you may have more turnover. From a recruitment standpoint, you coming into the market one day late may be one qualified applicant you may not receive. So in this market right now, yeah, we still as a board have the ability to pull it before the position's filled, but getting it out there as fast as we can and seeing as many applicants as we can is probably in our benefit. So until the labor market changes, I'd probably go forward with the practice that we currently are. But if it would go back to a more traditional labor market, I would be open to that conversation.
Sean Johnson, can you let the board know from posting to hiring or posting to starting, what kind of time frame are we looking at?
Commissioners, it varies by position, but you're typically looking at a 6 to 8 week process.
Commissioner Newsom?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, yeah, I think that's not a bad idea for us to have a committee of the whole sometime and look at the org charts for the different departments, just to, you know, familiarize all of us with what all these positions, you know, do, the people in these positions. So not a bad idea going forward. I don't know if that's kind of a board meeting is that place, but we can certainly review with the departments, and we have in the past. So.
And to Sean Johnson's points here, the bigger question I think is, was this the position we're filling because someone had passed away recently? Was that right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
So as far as timing, the bigger question to me is, when did that happen? And then when was the next meeting that the board met that could have been on the consent agenda? Given an off week or a workshop, or, well, we could have done it at a workshop, but let's say AMC.
No, we can't do it at a workshop.
Oh, we can't.
We can't approve
It's
it.
not a consent.
It's not an approving body, it's just a recommending body.
Okay. Well, but that's, I guess, if the timing lined up, that it within a matter of a couple days, I just don't see a big difference in the posting part. And I don't know how widespread this is around the county, but I'm concerned that this can be stretched to other reasons why positions are moved along in a process before we get a look at it. And
Like I said, we can still stop the position. They can post for it, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll hire it. We have done that in the past where it's been posted and then the board has said, hold off for a second, or a month, or 10 months, or a year.
all right, it seems like we're better filling our role if we look at it at the time before it's moved along. But
Well, if it's a budgeted position and it's somebody being replaced, you know, there's some advantages to getting somebody back in there as soon as possible, and then also having somebody to help train somebody too, if you get lucky and get people hired quickly before the person leaves, which is really extremely rare when it takes 6 to 8 weeks to get somebody hired.
all right, well, I'm done with that one. I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Newsom to approve Administration Finance, item number 2, position replacements for Office Tech 2. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Planning and zoning.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So on this one, it was a good time to look at the whole chart. I got a copy of the organizational chart for planning. I spoke to Barry, and that's what I'll offer that as Exhibit 1. Attorney Kreiser will appreciate that. But that, if you look at the top, county board is there. And I didn't ask him to implement that, but that's what he has. And so here we've got 2 spots that are up for replacement. And when I started talking to Barry about it, he said, well, just so you know, the office manager spot open, closed, and it's going to be set for interviews, I believe. And he, in fairness to him, that he inherited this process. This was all along, he didn't have a say really on how it went. But as you look at it, as I've looked at others, you see it, what draws attention is office manager, one of the requests here, has 2 people reporting to it, to that position. So I had conversation with Barry, and he was saying how helpful and workflow that position is, and the conversation moved on beyond that to the rest of the chart. Is there room for other movement and that kind of thing, which started with the discussion of this. But the question I get from constituents is this. They say, we wonder who's running this county, the county administrator, the office or department heads, or the county board. That's a question that I get. Now, an organizational chart, this one shows the county board at the top, but we weren't, this wasn't ran past us until the process opened, closed, and is set for interviews. And if we're okaying the people that they hire, then, all right, well then let's see the resumes and all the comparisons, which that isn't what we'd want to do, but it kind of looks like it when you read it on paper. So as part of a bigger discussion, we might want to have a committee of the whole to look at the whole structure of this Planning and Administration Commission here. In particular, I talked to Alan, but if you look to the far left, down toward the bottom, compost/recycling facility manager, Alan by default, you could say anointed or appointed, whichever you wish, to that facility out there midstream, and he hadn't been, it wasn't under his care and control before for some reason. But I'm wondering if there's some shape-shifting or responsibilities and titles there that we need to look at if Alan is going to continue managing that facility as he does the other buildings. And this person on this chart is more toward the compost recycling program management as far as what comes in and goes out. So that's what came as far as this discussion, and that's same and similar points that I made on the office tech as far as the order of the process of hiring and replacing.
Mr. Chair? So this was approved by the board, maybe not this, the 5 of us, but as far as the structure of planning and zoning, so it's not something that they just came up with, and are presenting now. So these are all positions that were approved, and as you said, maybe we can take a look at what does it mean for these other positions, but what's on the agenda, consent agenda today, is for these 2 positions. So they're obviously very key positions.
And they are, again, they're authorization to fill, which we could say yes or no potentially, but everyone agrees the person leaving, 40 years experience, maybe went above and beyond most likely of a typical office manager, but she's leaving. We don't have another 40-year person. So that was another reason to look at what do we all have here to work with going forward. So at the very least, could we schedule a committee of the whole to review the chart there with some of the changes that the board actually implemented mid-year, but this chart, it looks like, stayed the same.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Vetch?
So 2 parts here. The office manager side, I will say that the role, the 40-year individual has nothing to do, the responsibilities of that position still exist. The responsibilities weren't only just taken on because that individual was there for that period of time. Those were there, and it just happened to be that person filled that seat for a number of years. So inherits, somebody has to do those duties. And so therefore, I think having a discussion about that position, we were going to come to the very same conclusion we're at right now, that yes, somebody has to do that. Somebody has to manage the budgetary transactions. Somebody has to manage the organization of the agendas and so forth for planning and zoning in the planning and zoning department. Now, as far as the manager of the compost facility, that is a conversation that we left kind of ambiguous, and we do have to circle back on because we haven't decided whether the individual out there is going to be just managing the programs, which is what I'm under the interpretation right now, and Alan's office is in charge of the actual buildings physically themselves. I would like it to continue that way, where Alan is managing the buildings and the program is done. And maybe, I don't know what the job description, I haven't looked at it in a while, so I don't know if how much of that would really change it, but maybe HR and administration could take a look at that, and if there has to be modifications, if that's the will of the board, or if we have to have a committee of the whole to discuss what the will of the board is.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Ketchmark?
And I think in talking with Barry, there's potentially some rooms for some other movement that we could address at the committee of the whole meeting. And the discussion on the office manager and the justification, but we can't help but think, and the feedback I got that I didn't just make up, was that the person in that position for 40 gave us probably more than our money's worth for what that person did.
More of an assistant administrator, you
Yeah,
think?
so very hard to replace, but that's why, I think it'd be more appropriate for us to be able to take a look at it before I saw it on there as authorizing replacement, and then when I flip the page or make a phone call, well, just so you know, I don't know that that's right to the people that are in the process. Now, Mr. Chair has said we can always tell these folks, basically, not these words, but just kidding, we're gonna put a timeout on this. But it seems like it's more appropriate if we wanna tap the brakes on the process to do it before we throw the thing out there and get people's hopes up, and they put in a lot of time in doing resumes in the application process, and then they're waiting and wondering, well, sorry, but the board is kinda in limbo or has to discuss a couple things. So that's why it seems like it's also more appropriate for the applicants that we iron anything out and have the discussions first.
Well, I think on certain cases that may be all right, but again, my biggest concern is how long it takes to fill a position. And they're normally, well, take an Office Tech 2. Normally, there's always other Office Tech 2 positions open. So there's always that chance for, if we put a hold on one, that there's another one that they could be looking at also. And regarding the compost facility, since it's not something that's on the agenda, I would think that we could have a discussion sometime next year regarding that, on how we do want to handle it.
We kind of plan to do that.
Personally, I think we just let Alan do everything out there and get rid of the other two. And
Mr. Chair?
just kidding.
So I want to make sure I understood it correctly, Commissioner Ketchmark. And now I'm guessing you're saying you're not saying that the office manager doesn't need to exist. You're saying that there may be a potential desire from the new planning and zoning administrator to want to maybe make some changes within the org chart, is what you're saying. And if that was the case, I guess I would look for that individual to bring it to either a committee of the whole or a personnel committee to talk about what that'd be. And I'm guessing on this org chart, there's actually 3 planners, not 2, correct? Because there's the vacant one and then 2, correct? Okay, I just want to make sure, because
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Vetch, there are 2 planner positions. There used to be 3, and then when there was some internal promotions with the last zoning administrator hire, we did not rehire the 3rd planner position. That one of the 3 planners moved into an environmental services role, and we didn't rehire the planner position. It was left in our budget for a number of years, and eventually it just fell off. And so right now, yes, there are only 2 planner positions. As far as the potential reorganization of the office, yeah, Commissioner Ketchmark and I did have a conversation about that. Even with a reorganization, the office manager was not one of the positions I was looking at as part of that. It has to do with more the open environmental services or health supervisor position, and how all that fits. If we're going to be looking at potential changes to the compost plant and that environmental services position, which is still open, we have applicants that have submitted for it, we have the approval to replace it. If there is any potential for reorganization of that position, where that position sits, who's responsible for it, now's the time to have that discussion. Although we've been without that staff person for 3 months, And actually, right now, we're down 4 people. And so getting these hired as soon as possible is pretty important to our office right now. We're fortunate that we're into that time of year where we're not quite as swamped with stuff as we normally are, but this is the time of year where we take care of all the other stuff that we can't get to when it's the height of the building season. So we would like to get these positions in as soon as we can, because it's a good time to train them, good time to get them up to speed with how our office operates.
Barry, you've been in this position for a week now.
This is day 7.
Oh, day 7. Well, no, we don't count the weekends.
Well, no, but I did 5 days last week, and this is the 7th day.
Oh, that's right, today's Tuesday. Okay, sorry.
Affirmative.
So I don't understand, I mean, with those 7 days, why you don't have this all figured out yet. But if you have some ideas and things that you want to change, then yeah, we can,
Yeah.
we can have a committee of the whole, or even personnel. I'd say committee of the whole to look at it, probably best.
Yeah, and like I said, I would like to, for me, the sooner we can get that, the better, because we've had applicants, we have 11 applicants for the position as it currently sits. It's still open, it's open until filled. And we have some qualified applicants, and I don't want to hire that position just to then say, well, we should have done this. But at the same time, I'm in that gray area where we really need to get stuff filled, so
there are some special requirements for that person, too.
Yes, there are.
Right.
So it's not.
It's a very
Just anybody
unique
up to speed.
position, even in our scope of business. It's still a very unique position, and it's hard to fill.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, I guess that's the best statement I can make.
So you want to do a committee of the whole as soon as possible?
Quicker I can get it, the better.
Do we have any scheduled next Tuesday after the board meeting?
I don't believe that we do.
Is that soon enough? Is that too soon?
Be soon enough for me, I can put the request out there.
Mr. Chair, are you thinking of holding off on this then until we have that discussion, or are you
No,
thinking moving forward?
no,
These
because
two-
these-
these two are key positions that need to be filled.
Yeah.
Yep, and although the one position, you know, if we do decide to reorganize, may be a part of that, I don't think this process is gonna change. It's just where that position would fall under. There again, it's just some thoughts I had, and I would like to run them by the board.
All right. Lee, did we have anything scheduled next Tuesday?
The board does not.
Okay. You have something?
I can probably make it work.
Is there a better time with that, or?
Monday better than Tuesday?
Tuesday's probably the best day for me personally.
Okay.
Probably the best day for you guys.
All right. Does that work for everybody?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner?
Just since Alan's here, is you okay with the Tuesday deal to bring up? I feel like you got dumped on this extra deal, almost like it was Gilligan's Island out there for a long time, and then all of a sudden, you're out there. So I guess Tuesday's an opportunity for you then to kind of clear up, and better sooner than later, going into the new year. If there's something else that we should be thinking about.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. Really, I guess my part in the deal is just really kind of the question about the facility manager position that's on the org chart. And if that falls in line with the job description, I guess I don't know. And you guys just spoke about reviewing that with administration and HR, so I think that's taken care of. I guess here to field questions, but kind of as we spoke, Commissioner Ketchmark, really, you know, I've taken that site from an operation, facility operation type of aspect. The operations of the position, I'm not sure really are what they were before maybe, if that position really oversaw the project as a whole, as well as the operations of the program. That's probably maybe the differentiating line. For my part, we are still doing the same as we discussed before with taking over the physical structure of the site and the security of the site, and kind of running that with that lead, kind of pending some of the analysis done by the consultant that's working on that project in the next couple months as well. So here to field questions, I guess, next week if needed and kind of work through that, but that's really kind of our position. Our facilities are stopping out there and working on that aspect, and it's really kind of a facility versus an operations of program, probably differentiation maybe in line with that.
Thanks, Ellen. Okay, so moving on, we're spending enough time on this one, and we're gonna have more discussion next week on it. So I'll look for a
To
motion.
approve those positions, and we need a motion to set the committee of the whole at 10:30 on the,
Yeah, two separate motions.
And Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the filling of the two positions. And I'd just like to go on the record that I'd like to see the board see these before the process starts. Just, I'll put that on the record that it was stated.
We can have that discussion then also on Tuesday regarding that.
I'll
yeah.
second that motion.
I was just going to add to that if I could, Mr. Chair. I think this is really a bigger picture discussion on governance too and how you want to carry this out. Counties do this different ways. Typically, I would see in the administrator setup that these, if it's a budgeted position, it's just a backfill. A lot of counties don't even bring them to the board and just move on in order to keep things moving quickly. So I think the overall discussion and what level the board wants to or should be involved in might be a good thing to add on to this committee of the whole. I look out and see that there's about 10 positions that are open right now. I also note that we've been on this one for a while, and I'm not opposed to having the discussion on any county business in a public forum. But I do think that we've spent a lot of county time today, staff discussing it here. So any way that we can move this forward expediently, I would be appreciative of. So
Yeah, and we just got another, somebody just leaving too, a notice on it, so it's a constant revolving door. So we have a motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, a second by Commissioner Hewson. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Then, Mr. Chair, I can make the motion for the committee of the whole meeting next Tuesday, December 28th, after the board meeting,
Yeah, so we're gonna put a time on it, what, 10:30?
10:30?
10:30.
Motion, do I have
I'll
a second?
second it.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Vetch. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Okay, we're a little late, Mr. Hawkins.
Really slow. Don't push my time back anymore. We got a lot to say this morning. Just hold on now. Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and Board of Commissioners. Today, there's one highway item for your consideration. It's to approve memo of understanding with 4 agencies on the annual renewal of salt storage and purchase for City of Kolkato, City of Albertville, City of Waverly, and Kolkato Township.
Anybody have any questions for Virgil?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the memo of understanding with the City of Kolkato, Albertville, Waverly, and Kolkato Township.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewson. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Virgil. Mr. Kreiser.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, here today to present to you the resolution authorizing county staff to execute all documents necessary to ensure county participation in the multi-state settlements relating to opioid distributors and manufacturers and the Minnesota Opioid State Subdivision Memorandum of Agreement, and declaring support for the amendment as articulated in the resolution to Minnesota Statute 256.043, Subdivision 3D. Just for the board's recollection, I sent out a confidential memorandum from outside counsel on this to all the board members. Figured with that, I don't think we need to have another closed session on this item, but this is looking to enter into what's commonly referred to as the Johnson & Johnson settlement for the opioid litigation.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to pass this resolution.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hewson, second by Commissioner Wetter. Is there any discussions? Mr. Kreiser, I've heard that there are some, and maybe it's with the other, one of the other companies, I don't, that there's some grumblings about, because it still has to be approved by the By the federal judge's bankruptcy.
You're thinking the bankruptcy court, that's Purdue Pharma.
Oh, that's a different,
That's a
okay, so
different
that's a completely different
Yes. Mr.
lawsuit.
Chair, members of the board, I have not heard anything from outside counsel who's clearly on it, but just from my read of the news, the recent bankruptcy opinion, it actually was a district court opinion, and that's going to get appealed. And once it's up on appeal in the federal level, you're looking at least a 1-year delay. So that case is probably going to go on at least another 2 to 3 years, I bet.
Okay, so this one's strictly for Johnson & Johnson.
This is just Johnson & Johnson.
Oh, okay.
I think there might be another entity in it, but this is generally referred to as the Johnson & Johnson.
There was another distribution company, wasn't there, I think, in it?
I think they had some subsidiary companies. So, I don't want to go on record.
Nope, I
Specifically
understand.
saying what the company there is,
Yep,
just
yep,
the general Johnson & Johnson
yep.
bucket. Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, resolution, roll call vote, Commissioner Ketchmark.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kreiser. Items for consideration. Schedule closed session committee of the whole meeting to discuss the county administrative performance review.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Traditionally, we've done this as a closed session as permitted under 13D05. This is one of the reasons you can close a meeting. The board has preferred to do so in that forum. So at this point, would look at setting a date. My preference would be that first week of January. One suggestion, noting there is already a committee of the whole on Thursday the 6th, that may be an opportunity.
Thursday at 6?
Thursday,
6 o'clock at
January
night, all right.
6th.
So 6, 10 o'clock.
That's what it takes.
Oh, don't confuse me.
Just an option. We do have that committee of the whole already scheduled at 10. We could do before or after.
Does
Or
anybody
look at a
have
different
any
date.
issues with that particular date?
No, I'm good.
Fine.
Okay. So we have one at 10, you said?
Correct.
And what's that one on again?
That is,
Jail, health contract, isn't it?
yep, the jail medical contract.
I think that'll be more than an hour.
Yeah, that'll be at least an hour.
Yeah, we've got it planned for about an hour and a
You
half.
just want to put it as another agenda item to that committee of the whole and just make it like, whatever. right?
No, it's got to be a closed session, though.
Oh, it's closed session, oh, yeah, so, well, it can be an agenda item and then you just go to closed session.
Does,
Good.
Is that correct, Greg? If we just put that review as part of the agenda for the committee of the whole, the 6th, and just have it listed as a closed session, so when it comes to that agenda item, we go to closed session.
Mr. Chair, that's fine. You could do that. Have it as a closed item on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, or Attorney Kreiser, or just maybe having the meeting with Lee at 9 and then going into the 10 o'clock. You know, keeping them separate, that might just be cleaner. I don't know.
However, the board would like to proceed.
well,
Your option is fine.
my concern is that I don't think an hour is going to be enough with him.
City laughs.
I'm figuring, 3-4 hours, and then he'll have to buy us lunch, and... No, I kind of like having it just added on,
Okay. Fine.
and that way we can just go in when we need to. All right, so,
Does that just need to be consensus, or do we actually need to, if we're deciding it as an agenda item? I don't know.
Let's just do it clean and make
All
an
right, then I'll make a
agenda
motion to
motion
add
here.
the administrator review to the January 6th committee of the whole at 10 a.m.
Second.
motion by Commissioner Batch, second by Commissioner Houston. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Approve resolution setting county board per diems.
So
Or
board,
you get the chair, change it if you want, or give it up.
so again, Mr. Chair, this is just setting the per diems for the board for the upcoming year. We will have the assignment of who's on what's committees at the first meeting in January. So this is just to establish what the per diem will be for the county board and the committees that we pay per diem for moving forward into 2022. The second item then is a similar resolution relating to appointees that the county board puts on advisory committees. So 2 resolutions in front of you today.
Mr. Chair? Since we have, the different amounts on Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment. Does that,
But that would be a separate
that would
one.
be a
This is-
separate
That's the
thing.
next one, that's the
Right,
next
that's
action.
the second one.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to set the per diems for $50 for the approved committees for the board.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Vetch. Any other discussions?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Ketchmark?
Or Administrator Kelly, do we have any record when this was up to or changed to $50 as far as years?
To my knowledge, it's not been changed in probably 5 or so years at least. We did make an adjustment to the planning and zoning a while ago due to the length of the meetings, but outside of that, I don't recall a change from 50.
So 50 has been in place as long as we've been on board.
That makes it
No, I think we changed it.
We did?
Yeah, I'm almost positive.
What was
Was
it then?
it 40 and went to 50? No.
It was 45 or something like that.
Oh, okay, this was curious.
I don't recall doing that, but
It would have
I don't
been probably
remember
in your
every,
first
I don't
year or
remember
two.
everything.
Approximate, maybe 10 years or longer?
No, I think it was more like, probably about 5 years.
It has to be at least over 5, because
Well,
I know, I mean,
was
I
50
watched
when you
minute.
came on board.
Yep, and finishing up my 5th year, and I know that I watched a lot of the board meetings really close for 2 years prior to that, so you're probably at like 7 years, because
Okay,
Yeah, I don't remember changing it.
I do, and because,
We'll have to look it up.
yeah, which,
anyway, your point, Commissioner Ketchmark?
Well, that was it, is how long since has it been stuck at 50, or have we had some recent movement? That was my question, I wasn't here for that.
I know that, like, Health and Human Service, I think that those were like 40 and they moved those to 50, so there was some of that, but yeah,
Well,
it's been a while.
I know one of the things we did is that we made it so that all the other committees that had met that didn't have the board as members or did have the board as a member, the same as,
we did that in
Right.
2016,
Yeah.
we uniformed them in 2016.
which
because-
makes sense. If our time is worth that, then
Or
other people's
2017.
time.
And I think
Mr.
that's
Chair.
when we did the planning and zoning, we adjusted that and.
Mr. Chair, before that time, did the committees have all the committees have different,
Some of them, there's some differences.
The,
because I can remember being on extension, I mean, like eons ago, and it was 50 then to be on that committee, so I don't know.
well, they might have had different ones. I don't
Yeah, I
remember.
don't- that's
All
what
I
I
know
was
is we went
curious.
with the consistency.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I was able to find quickly the resolution that would have started the year January 2015, and that's at $50. So as of 2015, at least, it was $50.
That makes at least 7 years, because that's
Go
what I said, it's
back.
probably done in somewhere between 13 or 14, if it was even then.
So Commissioner Ketchmark, you want to reduce it?
It's minutes.
I would expect that question from you, Mr. Chair. So the planning commission, where the board is represented, that's kind of a crossover. Is that part of this, or are we lumped into the community members of the planning
It
commission?
depends on the language and how you would make your motions to adopt it.
Because I would separate in from the 50 and I would up the planning commission.
Well, the planning commission, we're gonna be adopting as the second one here.
But I mean, for the boards, the commissioners' representation on it though. Isn't there separation
I think-
for that?
I thought you were,
Mr. Chair, if I could, Commissioner Ketchmark, what I think you're referring to is on page 3 of the resolution, the list planning commission. That's you're establishing the per diem that's paid to the county board member who serves on the planning commission.
That's what we're at now.
Yes. So you as sitting on that planning commission, you only get $50 per diem, whereas everyone else gets 60 to 100
And that's,
underneath the proposed.
so that's where the separation is. We're at the point now where the commissioners are deciding what the commissioner gets on that board.
That's correct.
And at the next resolution, it's all about the community members on that board.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I would like to see that, as far as this discussion, that position get 100 regardless of the meeting length. And reasoning, and I talked with Planning Commission also on this, but the amount of preparation, the 3/4 to an inch worth of paperwork for each meeting, it's an evening meeting. You have other duties throughout the day. How do you split your day? If it was like 1 o'clock and regular part of our business day, that's something different. But these things, the meetings themselves are running 3 to 4 hours with a lot of contentious issues that we're having to try and sort through.
Mr. Chair? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So when discussing that, the planning commission per diems, I mean, I'm very inclined to say that we have to make some adjustments here. That position, and for the Board of Adjustments Planning Commission, their decisions carry a lot of weight. Those jobs require a great deal of patience. There's a lot of prior work that has to be done prior to coming into these meetings. And I know at this point that you're really twisting people's arms to want to sit on that committee. And it's not a windfall to them, but we have to at least respect the amount of time and effort that it puts into it. And I don't think $60 is a really fair shake for the amount of hours that people have to put into it. So, and to the same respect, any commissioner that would sit on it, I would say I'd put them the same into it because they're putting the same extraordinarily amount of effort that is above and beyond that of any other committee, so.
But I have a problem with this because as a commissioner, we ran for positions, knowing well that this is a public service job. And so we get paid.
You get a salary, right?
Yep. So it's part of the job. And if it's an issue for Commissioner Ketchmark, I'll be happy to take the planning and zoning, and that way he doesn't have to deal with it.
Sounds like we have an applicant for that vacancy for next year.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think that $100 for our citizens that sit on.
Right now,
Yeah, I know.
right now, we're talking
Yeah.
about, let's get this
get
one
it.
done with, and then we can discuss that other one.
I was gonna say, but you're right for the one that, our commissioner that sits on the planning commission, I think 50 is appropriate.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Yeah, for the 50, yeah, by
For the
Commissioner
50.
Houston, I second it, yep.
Correct, yep.
All right,
Yep,
so resolution, and this is strictly for commissioners only.
yep, didn't change anything from last year, yep.
All right. A resolution, Commissioner Ketchmark.
No,
Aye.
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 Okay. Resolution carries 4-1. Item number 2, having, setting per diems for appointees.
Mr. Chair, first of all, to start the conversation off, I think I'm inclined to set the same 50 for all the other ones all the way across the board, keeping it in line, but minus the Board of Adjustments in the Planning Commission. I don't want to do this 3-hour, 4-hour or more. Those two, the Board of Adjustment doesn't have quite as many long meetings, but they do have a great deal of prior research that needs to be done prior to coming in. The weight of the decisions that they have to make, I would like to keep them linear. But especially because these are very judicial bodies, and the effect that they have on people's lives based on their decisions, that has to be taken into consideration, especially in light of the labor market, the commitments of people's time. And I think a lot of us know right now, when trying to fill a planning and zoning commission, it's a tall order to get somebody to want to be considered for it. And that's where I'm kind of in that neighborhood of $100 or $120, just because I want to be respectful of these people's time. So we're at least quantifying the time for them to do the research, not to mention the amount of time that they're in the room.
I'll make So if that's your opinion, you want to make a motion for that? Commissioner Houston?
I guess, I don't know if planning and Board of Adjustment are quite weighted the same. Maybe they are. It's just, it seems like the Board of Adjustment maybe doesn't have, well, maybe they do, but,
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Houston, and Barry can chime in here because he's been representing or working on the Board of Adjustment for the last 15 years, but I can tell you their meetings get long.
yeah.
They start at 8:30, and it's not uncommon for them to have, in excess of 10 items on the agenda?
Okay, all right, yeah,
We're dealing with 75-foot lake setbacks on item number 10.
you're right. I
You've
mean,
heard it 10 times over.
yeah, that's true.
It gets really long.
Yeah,
To
that's
their
true.
defense. I
I
mean, we
would-
tried to do, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say that, yes, generally speaking, the Board of Adjustment doesn't run quite as long. There usually isn't quite the extent of public comment. But the weight of the decisions on the board members is no different.
That's true.
You know,
Exactly.
it's very difficult to tell people no, or even yes, and sometimes, or not this, but that. And so the weight of the decisions that these boards have to make is no different between the two. I do agree that the planning commission has a little bit more paperwork behind it. But the planning commission is also generally dealing with requests that are permitted. It's just a matter of, is it good for this area in the conditions that it's set, where the Board of Adjustment, what the board has to constantly remind themselves of, is that they're dealing with people that are asking for the exception. And so that's the primary difference between the two boards. One, it's permitted, it's whether or not it's good for that spot. The other one is, well, this by rule, you can't do this, you're asking us to break the rules for you. So that's where the mental weight of the decisions between the two boards is pretty similar.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm looking to make a motion to set the per diems for the Board of Adjustments and the Planning Commission at $120, so we don't have to revisit this again for an extended period of time, and $50 for all other advisory.
Second that.
We have a motion for, by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston.
Mr. Chair.
Just a moment. For $50 for all advisory committees except for planning and zoning and adjustments, Board of Adjustments to 120. Commissioner Wetter.
When the planning commission goes out for site visits, would they charge 120 for that, or would they charge just the 50 or what?
That's a good point. Good question.
But then my question with that is, I mean, you could say, I'd be open to setting a separate amount for that, but then those are usually during the middle of the day, people are taking off work. I know one of the individuals that represents mine, when those happen, and these people have very good jobs, but they're very diligent to their position on the planning commission, so they're taking either unpaid time or using PTO to do it. And I mean, if we have to adjust the applicant's fee to compensate for some of that, then that's what it is, to get people to have, I mean, there's volunteering and then there's volunteering. I mean, just to be fair to it.
Greg, Barry, how many trips did they end up having to take? Is it one a month?
Mr. Chair, I would probably say it's, 0.75 a month, maybe? You probably,
It's close.
I would bet they go 2 site inspections a quarter. Probably be a good average.
Mr.
I don't think
Chair,
we schedule one at the last meeting.
I think pretty much every meeting produces a site inspection.
Almost.
12.
Yeah, or maybe
Well,
25% of the time they don't, maybe once every 4 months we don't. Could be.
Mr. Chair, Attorney Kreiser, Barry, do they get mileage also when the site visits? So they get paid mileage?
Yes, they get paid mileage. Mr. Chair, Commissioner Houston, generally with the site inspections, we meet here, we get a van, everyone meets here. It's not like they're driving. For some people, given their workload and where they're coming from, they just drive right to the place and then they go home. because it's a shorter distance.
And you try to, if you had 2 site visits, you try to do it from a meeting, you just do one back to back, right?
That's correct. Yeah, you're
So
not doing.
sometimes they might be out for 2 hours by the time you make the round trip,
Or longer.
or longer.
Yeah, it's not uncommon to go from Franklin Township all the way up to Clearwater.
Then it still stands at, that's,
So, Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Commissioner Ryder?
they're getting paid now, right?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Wetter, they're getting the $60 right now.
To go on the site also.
Yes,
So for the meeting 60 and for the site visit 60.
that's correct.
But when you're in a car for 2-3 hours, if you're going across the county to do it, I don't know. It's a lot too.
All right, so we have a motion and a second regarding everything at 50 except for planning and zoning and Board of Adjustments for 120. Is there any additional?
Including the site visits?
Including the site visits, yep, same as it has been.
I don't know, I mean, I'll open to discuss, Mr. Chair, I'll open discussion on it, but the more I'm hearing about it, I guess it just makes it messier, because if you lower it, what would you lower it to? And if they're still having the same 2-3 hours into it, then, I mean, time is time.
Commissioner,
Mr. Chair.
Board of Adjustment do site visits too, but do more on their
Chair,
own.
Commissioner Hewson, not as frequently, I would say, about every other month.
Yeah, I would say anywhere from 4 to 6 years is pretty standard for the Board of Adjustment, I think. There was a period there where we did maybe 2 or 3 a year. Board has wanted to see a few more sites here recently. So I would say, yeah, I think last year we did 5 or 6 site inspections, maybe 7. But it's a little bit smaller than what the Planning Commission generally does. But those are the numbers, or roughly the
They
numbers.
should be the
I'd have to go
same.
back through.
okay, Commissioner Wetter?
Barry, if they didn't get paid 120 also for the site visit, would you say that there would be less going on that site visit or not? From your experience, you said 15 years, so.
Well, most of them, it's not
Well,
about
either
the money, so I couldn't say, they're
Okay.
going now at $60 a site inspection. So whether the increase in pay would cause more to go, I'm guessing numbers wouldn't bear that out.
So do you get a pretty good response actually going to the site right now?
That is harder, because of when they are, the people are already, they got their normal everyday lives. The Board of Adjustment, that's a day meeting. It's in the mornings on Fridays, and so most of the people that serve on that board have the flexibility in their schedule to make it work. The Planning Commission, I don't know the numbers for that because I used to take them out on some, but I'd say for the past 6 or 7 years, I haven't done too many. So I couldn't say. Commissioner Ketchmark might be able to actually answer that better than I can.
Commissioner Ketchmark?
For Commissioner Wetter, I make a lot of those. I'm here anyway. I trot out to the van. There's a good share of folks that drive themselves because of where they live or where their other job is. There's a good share that don't go. They state because it's in their district and they're already familiar with it. Whether it's a gravel pit renewal or a new one, they say, oh, I drive by that regularly. I don't need to go, but I'll vote in favor of the inspection for those that want to go. So it's very hypothetical, a lot of speculation to say if you up it to 100, is it going to change? These folks have their own reasoning and logic why they do or don't go. And like Commissioner Vetch said, there's the unpaid time, and a lot of these are at 9 in the morning, whatever we set them. And it's a disruption of, for the most part, these folks have other jobs. So how are they going to account for that? They have to have a job that's going to allow them in the first place to break free and come to these things and hold their role up on the board. So I don't think money is going to affect that much on the site inspection.
Commissioner Vetch had said 120, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct.
And just for clarification, that's regardless of the meeting length. We would do away with, gotta be this long or.
Yep.
So don't go making it 1 hour long.
I don't think they have, I don't think that's even possible if they wanted to.
I would love to have a 1-hour meeting again. I don't think I've had one in 5 years.
I don't think we've even had a,
Had one or two board of adjustments that happened.
Yeah, but
I don't even think you've had a 90-minute one this last 12 months.
yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I think more or often than not, we're sitting at 3 hours and 20 minutes and they're going, what can we talk about for 10 minutes?
Yeah. Yep. It can get contentious just like this, how long we've been discussing this sort of stuff. So, everybody has their opinions. All right. So I have a motion, I have a second. Is there any other discussions? So again, everything is at 50 for all appointees except for planning and zoning and Board of Adjustments. Any other discussions? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Oh, and Lee, I was just kidding about spending more than an hour. It could only take 10 minutes. No, I don't want to rush it.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's why I don't want to do it
How you giving
before.
them anxiety over there?
No, he knows. He knows me that I'm full of it. I'm full of something.
I was just gonna say.
All right, committee minutes. Commissioner Wetter. Transportation Committee of the Whole.
Yes,
Commissioner
Mr. Chair. November 30th, we met, 10:30 a.m. We spoke about review of the public input / comments received from open house opportunities for consideration of extending the local option sales tax for transportation, otherwise known as LOST. So we got 6 pages of notes here, but to summarize, Virgil Hawkins was here from the Highway Department advocating for the loss to continue. He gave a summary of the feedback from 3 open houses around the county, along with a virtual, and there was 27 comments received at the 3 open houses, and overall 74% favored extending the lost. 20 commented that the board should extend the tax, that was in comments, and 7 comments were that we should not. Also, there was feedback and resolutions from cities and townships. 6 cities sent a resolution of support. 3 townships sent a resolution of support to extend it. A lot of questions and clarification back and forth as far as townships getting a cut of this, with it being about $10 million. There never was really a conclusive plan for that, but at a public hearing coming up, the townships and others will have opportunity to weigh in on that. And in the end, the recommendation, the consensus of the board was to extend the local option sales tax for an additional 10 years and have a public hearing in February of 2022, date and time to be determined, to extend the lost tax.
Was that to extend the lost tax at that point, or was it just to, because you have to state what projects are gonna go to?
We have to.
I think that's what it was more for. I think we can approve next week a resolution to continue the loss, but there has to be a public hearing regarding what projects are gonna be.
Correct.
You have,
Isn't there another public hearing to determine if we extend it, period?
no, we don't have another public hearing to,
Oh.
no, we did, Greg, I think
I thought he said that, but.
we have another public hearing on the local option sales tax?
Yes,
Okay, we do.
at least
Oh.
one,
Those are just open house.
Oh, okay.
correct.
So that's where we can, after we get input, but we also have to show the plan at that point too, don't we?
yes, Mr.
Correct.
Chair, you have to show the plan, you have to have the public hearing, open it, notice
Okay.
it, go through the proper channels and do that, yes.
Okay.
And at that public hearing, we go up or down, right?
you can at that point in time, or you can defer it or table it for further discussion.
Okay.
It's really up to the board. You just can't make a decision until after that public hearing is held.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Oh, so confusing.
I
The
know, that's why I
recommendation
wanted to make,
stand as is with
Yep.
to extend the lost tax.
Yep, and to have the public hearing in February.
So you have is that a motion?
So I'll make a motion to approve
I'll
those
second that.
meeting minutes along with the recommendation.
And Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Committee of the Whole for 12/14 at 11 a.m. Derek?
All right, so the, was originally the Broadband Committee, which got transferred into a Committee of the Whole, as Design 9 presented their broadband feasibility and assessment for Wright County. The study focused on several factors, the technical asset analysis, service gaps, broadband survey, connectivity solutions, and preliminary design cost estimates and potential infrastructure funding. So, very good study, lots of information. There was one thing here in the minutes that I want to make sure gets modified, because I do know that Wright County taxpayers don't pay $3.6 billion in broadband service a year. I think that was over a 10-year or 30-year, I forget. It was over an extended period of time, but I know it's not over a year. Because that would be in...
Yeah, I think it might have been million.
Yeah, so I don't know if you want to at least get that, I just don't want to get that number out there, so get
Sure,
that
maybe
correct.
just cross out that whole sentence, maybe?
Yeah, or whatever you need to do, administration, to get that modified. Definitely talked about the difference with the speed limitations between fixed wireless and in-ground fiber. We discussed the requirements from the federal government for granting opportunities. They presented to us a variety of different possibilities to move forward with, and areas that would meet some of the funding requirements by the state and federal government. We also formalized some discussions on the, talked about, I shouldn't say formalized, but discussed a little bit about our franchise agreements that we were working on, and that's continuing forward. We also briefly discussed our Dig Once policy. And other than that, there's a lot of great detail in there. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the actual feasibility study, because I don't know where I'd begin and where I'd end by just starting to talk about it, because it is what, I forget how many pages it was, but it was.
Yeah.
It was a lot of pages, which, and I believe that has been put out on our county website.
150 or something.
I think it was like
close to it.
153 or something like that, yeah, so. The recommendation was, the consensus was to move forward with the formulating and implementing a policy to include a laying conduit in conjunction with future county road projects, which is our Dig Once policy, and finalize the draft of the broadband assessment and feasibility study for release to the county residents for viewing, which may have been done already. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Committee of the Whole on 12/14 at 1 o'clock. Mr. Administrator.
All right. Thank you, sir. This was our meeting with legislators for the upcoming session. We had 5 commissioners in attendance, a number of staff from a variety of departments. Senator Bruce Anderson joined us in person, and we had representatives from 5 other legislators that attended virtually, as well as representatives from Flaherty and Hood and Jolene Foss from the Economic Development Partnership. So discussion started off regarding Department of Vehicle Services testing. Last year we had brought an item about the availability of testing and the concerns we had with that. The center here in downtown Buffalo reopened on the 7th of December. However, it's only 2 days a week. We once again stated our concern about the availability of testing and the difficulty it's creating in hiring transit drivers. Representative Lucero spoke about House File 1141 that he introduced regarding testing to be able to be administered by deputy registrars. And then we had some discussion regarding third-party testing stations in the state and the opportunity that may be able to be pursued with that in order to create more testing opportunities. Second topic centered around the homestead property exclusion. As market values have continued to increase on homes in the area, this exclusion has not kept up. We're starting some discussion with the legislators on that, as well as enlisting Flaherty and Hood to look at this issue and come forward with some potential solutions. We talked briefly about some ditch items, specifically House File 1320 that was introduced last session by Marianne O'Neill. Talked a little bit about ditch 39 and 33 and some issues that were centering around that. Broadband was also a topic brought forward. Elizabeth Carls spoke to some of the challenges that we've encountered as our process has gone forward through the study. Some barriers that have been created, also that there is an Office of Broadband Development, but no real central guidance or coordinated effort at the state level. And because of some of the requirements of the American Rescue Plan, you have to have projects that meet certain speed requirements for funding to be allocated. As we continue to have needs in broadband, especially in our rural areas, this will be an increased discussion as we go forward. HHS Director Goodrum Schwartz, discussed some of their legislative priorities, which included public health and the statewide continued response to COVID-19 and the continuation of the local public health grant in order to fund these opportunities. Additionally, there's been some flexibility created for virtual appointments during COVID that they would like to see in place, remain in place for all programs which require face-to-face visits. Also spoke about the challenges of workforce that faces workforce statewide for affordable and accessible childcare, and reprioritizing the basic sliding fee wait list. We traditionally in Wright County overspend that allocation by 129%. We did have a brief discussion as well about the local option sales tax and our benefit from that, and thank the legislators for putting that provision in a few years ago. Public Health Director Groshess gave us a overview of the Opioid Epidemic Response Advisory Council and the settlement fund that we adopted today and moving forward with that. Jolene Foss talked also about the affordable housing and childcare for residents from her seat as the Economic Development Director for the EDP. So informational only, no recommendations from this meeting.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the committee of the whole and 12/14 at 1 o'clock.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pull same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Advisory board updates. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Yes, Mr. Chair. ESB met last week. One thing noteworthy is we voted to extend the warranty for radio maintenance and defects for another year with that program. Delano Safe Schools met, talked about truancy. They actually said that as far as disciplinary matters, they're actually returning to more of a normal pace. They had been up. They're dealing with social media related issues that parents and students take to social media to investigate or cause disruption at school, and Sheriff's Office requested if parents have concerns, rather than to try and conduct their own investigation and feedback on social media, that they report it directly to the Sheriff's Office. We had our mayor's meeting last week. Had a presentation and update from Congressman Anderson?
Senator Anderson.
Senator Anderson. Politician Anderson. And that was good, and that's all I had, Mr. Chair. Oh, KRWC did an update there. I have to probably change my office for rent date. Fully furnished here. But probably be an update coming on that when it's available. Thank you.
Commissioner Houston.
Thank you. META met, and a good meeting again. We talked about becoming members of the Minnesota Prevention Alliance, which would give us more resources and some broader information. So we are moving ahead with that. We have community action teams, and we have specific things that we're working on. For instance, the marketing plans for Talk to Hear You campaign. So we're looking at getting more information out to students and parents. And there's another, we have 3 movies, and actually Lori Blockett who's on our drug awareness hire, is been going to different schools and presenting the Dead on Arrival documentary. I don't know if you've been to a Safe Schools where she's presented that. It's an excellent one, and you can look at the META website for the links to that. It's only 20 minutes, and so it's good information. It's emotional. There's a full-length movie, Life After You, and we're looking at a forum to, present that, since it is a full-length movie, and what impact that would have. And both Lori Blockett and Rebecca Graham from Public Health did the National Coalition Academy graduation, and so they will be potentially going to Washington, D.C. for their graduation. We approved a mini grant for Howard Lake Waverly Winstead Elementary School for a upcoming project. And just looking at getting as much information out there through social media and the newsletter, which we can all share. So that is that. And I had the State Health Committee meeting, and a lot of discussion about the funding sources and trying to keep more of a steady funding source for public health and hopefully increase. And so more discussion on getting messaging out for the whole pandemic thing. And we had a nice presentation from Mike Schomer, who is the director of MDH Communications, and he gave just a lot of good tips about, it was kind of interesting to hear that the average American takes in 100,000 words per day, which is 34 gigabytes of information. So when you think about all the stuff that comes at us, I mean, it equals to 1 King James Bible per week. So we're getting a lot of information, and our attention span is been going down as the time goes on. But in 2000, they said that average attention span was 12 seconds. In 2013, it was 8.3, and now we have even shorter attention span than that. So it's kind of the...
What did you say?
Yeah. It's kind of the one solution is a bite, snack, and meal approach. So not everyone wants to hear everything that you know. In other words, you have to kind of pick your audiences, and some people just want the Reader's Digest condensed version of information. So anyway, there's a lot of good thoughts on that. And then we had a COVID impact assessment discussion paper, and that were kind of the lessons learned and compelling needs, and just essentially it boils down to 4 things: workforce, technology, foundations, and emergency, retention, recruitment, and gaps in funding, outdated infrastructure, underfunding core health capabilities and programs, and cuts to emergency preparedness programs. So we broke into small groups for that discussion, but it's fairly lengthy discussion paper. That's all I will share.
I just have one thing. Commissioner Vetch and I met with some department heads about consolidations that the board had talked about at our retreat, and it's a little more complicated than what we thought it might be. So there'll be more discussions going on in that, but We relayed what the board has in mind, and we'll have to do some figuring out. Some of the positions do more than what we thought they did, so.
Good to have that discussion.
Yep. And I'm hoping to hear from one of you guys about the mayor's meeting, since I was unable to attend it,
yeah.
and you guys all were there, and I'm
We
really
were,
surprised, so must
Yeah,
not
Derek
have been
and-
that exciting.
Derek can,
So, Mayor's Association dinner, very nice event. Weather held out for us. At least we didn't notice it because we were inside. It was all better by the time we went home.
wasn't
So that
bad.
was good. Good discussion on the state surplus collectively and how that should be spent at the legislature. That was probably one of the larger discussions. We also discussed the homestead exclusion and how the impacts on that. We also discussed some of the other exclusions that affect property, whether it's disabled veterans exclusions and stuff, and how that impacts capacities for municipalities. We also discussed the racial relief and the Xcel Energy potential with that in commercial properties. So really good discussion on a variety of different topics, a lot of it having to do with property values, even with, and a lot of that was a discussion that Senator Anderson brought up. So it's getting a lot of attention just because of the hyperinflation that's out there right now.
Was Senator Anderson at the meeting?
Yes.
he
yeah.
gave a
Update.
thorough
thorough
update, and
update. Yep.
so did Stacy from Member's Office. They both gave.
Good.
So then
Sorry I missed it.
So, this last week, I-94 Coalition met and the I-94 group, the I-94 project, or I-94/610 project got TED funding in the amount of $5 million. They're, I wouldn't say reluctant, they're happy they got it, but when you take a TED grant, you have to sign off saying that you won't apply for any, in the next calendar year, you won't apply for any other funding. And with the 7.7 surplus at the state, they're a little bit like, when you only got a third of what you're looking for to do your project, you sign that piece of paper and know that you can't go after the other 2/3. So, more to come on it. And they're trying to get some clarity on the quarters of commerce, if that would be considered a no-go funding mechanism. If that's not, then they may feel more comfortable in signing off on that TED grant. But it's tough decisions, I guess. Better to have money than no money, right?
Yeah.
So the other was, on Friday, we had our management committee for the Wright County Economic Development Partnership. We took a tour of the new facility and got to see their space. They're very excited to be able to be moving in there in February. We also got our, how would you call it there, our strategic plan back.
Okay.
So we're working on trying to get a 2-pager synopsis of this because
Because of attention span, no?
yeah, exactly. Trying to get that 8-second attention span.
The bite, you want to get the bite.
What did you say?
So board members are taking this and supposing to pull some nuggets out of there to put that 2-pager out. So other than that, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Wetter?
December 14th was the Wright County Community Action at Hicko's, and we had a nice dinner, had a review of the year, and what was very interesting to me was they were very upset with Head Start. The feds, since they give the money, have mandated that everyone should have vaccine shots.
That should. Has to.
Has to.
Shoot
yeah.
isn't the right word. So
Oh, okay, that they will have, and so they're really upset because they figure they're gonna lose a lot of teachers and bus drivers maybe, and that sort of thing, so.
Yep.
Yep.
And then on the 15th, I went to Glencoe for the South Fork One Watershed, One Plan Policy Committee meeting, and found out that this was, the McLeod would be, SWCD would be the fiscal agent and do the day-to-day operations. And then Renville County will be the county lead. And the officers were chosen. They're both county commissioners. Paul Wright will be the chair from McLeod, and Randy Kramer will be the vice chair from Renville County. And there's a MOA agreement already approved. They reviewed the bylaws, and there were quite a few things that have to be changed there. Looked at the timeline, budget, and about hiring a consultant, and they're talking either Houston Engineering or ISG, so as a consultant for that. Then on the 15th was at the Wright County Mayor's meeting in Montrose. I thought it was interesting that there wasn't a quorum. There were more guests there than there was actually people from the mayors.
Only
so-
4 mayors, so they couldn't.
So they
really?
couldn't vote for
couldn't vote.
anybody, so they were gonna do it by email, I guess, so.
For the new officers for the next year.
There were supposed to be a lot more, but I think they said like 6 of them didn't make it. 'cause
Well,
of the
it was
weather.
a foggy night,
Yeah.
Well,
so.
it fortunately, the weather didn't get really extremely windy until later after we
Yeah.
got home, so.
And that's all I have to,
Mary, regarding the north one watershed, North Fork of the Crow
Okay.
River, one watershed, one plan, and the South Fork watershed, one
Yes.
water plan.
yeah,
I don't know, if they're gonna get confused, but anyway, get confused more. You
then
talked
you've got
about,
then you've got the St. Cloud, Mississippi.
enough.
Shed one plan.
Anyway, you talked about they were looking at hiring a consultant. Did the North Fork hire a consultant?
Yes,
I'm just wondering if,
it's more engineering, and they were working with one of the watershed districts in there already. And one of the counties was very familiar with them and the watershed district people, so they just continued with that.
okay,
more
I was just
engineering.
wondering, because, you know, since the South and the North do kind of eventually
And
meet.
that's why they're leaning towards Houston Engineering, because they've already done a lot of work for, let's see, McLeod and Redville,
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of, but we all agreed that, oh, hey, come on, you gotta put another engineering group out there too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To select, so they were gonna reach out to ISG, I guess.
Yep.
Alrighty, thank you. Administrator Kelly, do you have anything?
Yeah, a few things, of course, getting to the end of the year and wrapping up the logistical things that we have to do to make the turnover of the new year up in our office. As mentioned by Commissioner DeLayden, have had a lot of discussions with various staff coming out of the board's retreat. One of the items, I guess maybe question for guidance, was planning to put on the next board meeting regarding the follow-up from the December 8th Personnel Committee regarding the strategy and portfolio manager. Was planning that as an agenda item, but I don't know, given if we should look at a different forum for that, but would like to move forward with that. Also wanted to circle back with the board on some of the first pieces that I felt we should move on regarding some reorganization in the administration department. So I was thinking of continuing that discussion, if you would. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
As a committee of the whole, or how are you looking to do with that?
Well, I was initially planning to bring forward this job description for approval, as that was for the portfolio manager was left as a item, but I don't know if we want to have more discussion on that
I
prior to
thought we
moving
were
forward.
gonna forego filling that one. Was out of the retreat discussion, but.
Changing of what it was, yes. So, tell you what, why don't I write up something to react to, and I'll send that out to you guys, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Okay.
Just also following up regarding the OSHA rule. You may have heard that the stay has been lifted, so where that goes, we're kind of waiting to see. Certainly planning to be prepared for whatever we comes towards us, we're working on the back end, developing our plans and being ready to go if in fact it does fall. But right now it's in the hands of Minnesota OSHA, so wait and see. So that's all I have for today.
It's challenging times.
Yes.
All right.
Continues.
Does anybody else have anything to add?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Ketchmark?
I'll keep it brief, just to wish the rest of the board and the viewers a Merry Christmas and a good New Year.
Oh, sure,
Yes.
you stole my thunder.
And everyone, get out to see the Festival of Trees at the
Yes.
Wright County History Center.
Yeah, and vote for the one with all the cars on it.
No, the cows, the cows.
Or one of the other ones.
It's the cows.
There are 85 trees out there. They're not all lit
No.
trees, but I mean, it really is.
Yeah, it's really neat out there.
It's, and they're actually, she's gonna be open, on Christmas
Sunday, I
Eve
think.
too. Well, on
Oh,
Sundays.
She has been open on Sundays.
Yeah.
5 to 7, but they're open till 8 o'clock on Tuesdays, and Christmas Eve, they're opening at 4, so people can get into, you know. view.
Opening at 4 or till 4?
I think at 4 until,
At night? On Christmas Eve night? Up there.
she's not open on Christmas Eve evening.
Is it on their website, the hours?
It was in the paper, so
Alright.
they can look. So, yeah,
And
check
they're
out
normally open on Thursdays, right?
No, Tuesday evenings.
Tuesday
No,
evening.
during the day on Thursday.
Yeah, they're
Oh, yeah.
open, yes,
They're
Monday
open
through
every day.
Friday, Monday
Okay.
through Friday, 8 to 4:30, except Tuesdays till 8, and then special Sundays, and then Christmas Eve. So,
Yeah.
And that may change in the future as they have more, they're talking more programs too, so.
I'm hoping to take my grandkids
Yes.
there on Thursday.
Actually, I'm gonna stop there after this.
Take them shopping and there. So yes, to echo Commissioner Ketchmark,
Yes.
a Merry
everybody.
Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. Everybody wish for peace on earth. That's a personal one that I've been asking for years, and unfortunately, nobody's given it to me yet, but I'm still gonna keep asking.
okay.
So we are adjourned at 10:32.